is a Bramble Jam podcast.
Welcome to Girls Gone Hallmark, a Hallmark review podcast. I'm Megan, and I'm a longtime Hallmark fan.
I love how you just jumped in. Hi, I'm Wendy. I'm a former Hallmark hater.
Today we are discussing Finding Mr. Christmas, episode 6. We are getting down to the wire. We are almost about to find Mr. Christmas.
I don't want this show to end.
I don't either. I am glad that I've saved Mistletoe Murders because I feel like it'll give me something to look forward to that I can just like watch for fun during winter break.
Yeah.
I'm also very curious to find out what is coming to Hallmark Plus in January. We know we've got The Way Home, but I'm certain we'll get some movie releases.
I hope so. And now that you've mentioned that, we don't even know what's coming to linear Hallmark Channel in January yet.
No, I know. We're going to hop right into episode 6, which opens in the kitchen again. And they're talking about Parker's departure. And they kind of just talk about like, well, it's anyone's game to win at this point. So Blake makes a comment about like, just take it day by day, like live in the moment, focus on the task at hand. You can't like be looking too far down the line.
Yeah, he's like, focus on today.
Yeah.
Which I feel like I need to like defend my stance on Blake a little bit.
Yeah, you're not a Blake hater.
Everybody thinks I'm a Blake hater. I'm not. I swear I'm not. In fact, I enjoyed all the guys in this episode.
Yeah, me too. I actually thought it was a really hard choice in our stage challenge.
You know how I snark on the show a little bit.
Yeah, it's my favorite thing.
It's my favorite thing to write too. But even when I finished watching this episode, I was like, I can't even dog on it. It was like so hit me in my weak black heart.
I very much agree. But before we get to their emotional scenes, we do have a Christmas trivia challenge.
Yes.
And I always try and guess like which way it's going to go based on like the talking head interviews that the guys give. So Ezra's like, I got this one in the bag, which I'm like, that's either a great sign or a terrible sign. Jonathan also thinks he might do okay. And I'm like, come on, Jonathan. We're rooting for you, man.
I am rooting for him.
Tree puns abound in the upcoming trivia challenge. Now, the first question is such a softball. I'm like, oh my gosh, is it going to be like not a creature was stirring, not even a blank?
Yeah.
Of course, they all get it. But then, now, also, we don't know how this was edited, but the next question is about the origin of the Christmas tree. And I was like, wow, that's a sharp left turn.
A little bit harder of a question.
My favorite part is that Elijah writes, the country is Europe.
I laughed. So if you haven't seen the episode, they wrote their answers on chalkboards. So they're like holding up their answers. And when his says Europe and Jonathan Bennett's like, bro. And it also made me wonder, like, because we know how funny Jonathan Bennett is and so great at improv. Like, what did they have to cut out here? Because I'm sure he really gave these guys a hard time.
Clowned them.
For their wrong answers. Yes.
We get a special guest. She comes in midway through. This is a very odd scene to me.
So random.
Kristen Baldwin from Entertainment Weekly. No Melissa Peterman, which is okay. But she comes in like midway through, asks a couple of questions, and then leaves. Yeah. Again, we don't know the editing, but she's clearly not there the entire time. And I was like, well, she's so busy, or were they so bad at these questions that they had to edit so much out?
Oh, interesting.
You know, Jonathan made a comment about budget in our interview with him. This was a great way to do a super low budget competition. Like it cost them nothing.
Yeah, definitely.
So they can like ramp up whatever the next thing is potentially.
Yeah, but what is the point of bringing this EW reporter, commentator, critic? Oh, she's a TV critic. What's the point of bringing her in? Like there should be some sort of teachable moment here, I think.
Yeah, right. Like, is she going to come? Like, they should bring her back in the next challenge. She should have, but there's nothing for her to critique. Like, she's just there as a partner to Jonathan. And to me, I'm like, is she based in Utah? Like, what is happening here?
I bet she was just there on set that day.
Yeah,
like maybe covering the show. And then they're like, hey, why don't you jump in for a few scenes since we don't have Melissa here, who was obviously working on her Reba show.
Yeah. They do ask a question about the Adam Sandler Hanukkah song, and I was like, they're all too young. They're all too young to get the reference. I mean, a couple of them do get the reference.
Yes, they do. But I was a little bit surprised with Hayden's Eddie Murphy answer. Eddie Murphy? Talk about young. How does Hayden know who Eddie Murphy is?
I mean, all they just guessed a comedian. He was like, I don't know, Eddie Murphy. Like, what? Let me name an American comedian.
How long ago did that Hanukkah song come out from Adam Sandler?
20 years ago.
My daughter's 16. She's familiar with that song.
I'm sure it is popular. Play the harmonica.
Yeah, like, I mean, any TikToker probably sees it in their feed this time of year.
Sure. I think it's before their time. I could be wrong. In my mind, that's a very old. In my mind, it's from like peak Adam Sandler, and I think we have, which is to me like Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, and I think those years are long ago.
Before these guys were born?
Well, before they were culturally aware.
Yeah, that makes me feel
A couple of them did get it, but we get like Will Ferrell, Dave Chappelle. I do think they were just like throwing out comedians. Fortunately, they do all know Mariah.
Yes, the Mariah Carey question about her big song.
Yes.
It's time. Guys, I don't know where that came from. I'm embarrassed. I'm kind of hoping Megan edits it out, but I don't think she will.
They do ask a question about Frosty's nose, and only Elijah gets the correct answer. I'm like, sing the song, bros.
I know there were several times where the questions were like about poems or songs. I'm like, do you just not know it?
Just say it again. With a corncob pipe and a button nose.
Yeah, that exactly. But why is Frosty or a snowman like synonymous with a carrot nose though?
Well, I think snowmen, they use I have seen often carrots on snowmen.
But
Like
Frosty-
Olaf has a carrot.
Oh, interesting.
But Frosty, I think button sounds better in the song than carrot. My guess is that's why like button's a cute word and carrot isn't.
So we're blaming the writer of the song.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen someone actually build a snowman with a button.
Never.
Blake and Elijah dominate. They go into a tiebreaker, and the tiebreaker question is so easy. But I was like, you need to take inspiration from your favorite reality shows. Like the tiebreaker question cannot have such an easy answer. Like it needs to be like, how many verses are there in 'Twas the Night Before Christmas? Like a really, where they're never going to get
a math answer.
Yes, like they're never going to get the exact answer, but one of them is going to get close.
I did think the question was a little sneaky.
What snacks do we leave for Santa and the reindeer?
And the reindeer, if you're not paying close enough attention to the question,
yes,
you
Elijah.
are just going to put milk and cookies.
Yes, and honestly, I would have gotten it wrong because in my mind I was like milk and cookie dumbasses, but Elijah correctly adds in carrots for the reindeer.
Do you guys leave out carrots for the reindeer?
Indeed, we do.
We do too.
So in between competitions, Elijah talks about missing his girlfriend who is at home and pregnant, which we haven't talked about since really the pilot opening episode.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting some insight, like, because we know this is going to be a more emotional challenge. Jonathan talks about losing his dad and how his dad inspired him to be in this competition and be an entertainer.
This was real sad to me.
There was a lot of emotional moments. And before we talk about the Star Quality Challenge, let's take a quick break and we'll come right back. Now we are back with the Star Quality Challenge, and you know who else is back?
Melissa Peterman.
That's right. Comedy last week. This week is like a breakup scene.
Yes.
Our co-star is Rachel Boston. And we had a second surprise guest this time, Allie Lieber as director.
Now, question for you.
Yeah.
When we interviewed Daxton, and he was like, we had no idea. And I don't remember if he said we, but he had no idea who Aaron Cahill was. Do we think these guys know who Rachel Boston and Allie Lieber are?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
These guys, we know that they didn't audition to be on a Hallmark show. They auditioned to be on like a reality competition show.
Mm-hmm.
And so they may have done some homework in between finding out the show and the launch. The way like Big Brother characters will get cast and then like cram
Seasons worth of Big Brother to learn the game. Yeah. I just wonder. I mean, of course, they're going to like welcome everybody warmly and be like excited for whomever is visiting set that day or to do their challenge with them. But I just was wondering if they knew who they were, because then Ezra's talking ahead. He's like, Allie Liebert, she's huge. And I was like,
Yeah, do they know?
I know we're on audio, but my head just cocked. Like I was like, okay.
Now, I haven't actually seen a ton of movies with Rachel Boston in them, but I want to say that I think she did a great job with this scene every single time.
I have in my notes here that I am so drawn to her in this
Yeah.
scene, and she nails it every single time.
I
too.
think she has such a real happy, bubbly personality. Like we saw on the cruise, she was like so happy and so upbeat. And I have not watched Mrs. Miracle from this past weekend, but I think I could be wrong, but in the preview, she's playing like a real happy, and I think that's kind of the character she usually plays. And I loved seeing this like emotional, hurt, angry moment from her.
Me too.
Like I did not get tired of watching her do the same scene 6 times.
Me too.
So Elijah won our opening challenge, so our festive face-off. So he gets to choose the order that everybody goes in, and then that also means like the later you go in the challenge, the more time you get with the script. Now,
Yes.
would you have made the same choice Elijah made in going first?
Well, bravo to him for being willing to go first.
Yeah.
Like, he feels confident enough that like he could handle the script. I mean, I thought he was being nice to his fellow competitors,
Yeah.
giving the guys who have less experience more time. So like kind of a good guy move.
It's like the ultimate good guy.
Totally.
Because he could have been like, I'm going last. I'm going to have as much time with the script as I possibly can. But it's smart. Like he goes first. He puts Blake up second, knowing that those two typically do well, giving Blake and Ezra a little more time with the script to get comfortable with it. Now, we're told that this is an emotional scene and that they should cry.
Yes.
Spoiler alert, nobody cries in the scene.
In the scene being the
Yeah, there are some tears.
no shade to the tears, but like
No, I couldn't cry on demand either.
the assignment was
Yeah.
in the scene.
This reminds me of Josh Malina, who was on The West Wing, among a million other things. But they were talking about crying on command, and he would talk about how like the good actors could do it, and that he would need the faux tears, and he would always ask like props, like, "Hey, can you come give me some talent?" Which is what he called like the tears.
funny.
in his eyes.
Very
Anyway,
funny.
Makes me laugh. So Elijah's first, and he does I love that he asks Allie a question about the script, like clarifying the motivation. Because like one of the lines is like, "You're not okay." And he's like, it feels kind of weird to come in and be like, I'm trying to apologize to her and telling her how she feels.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, look at you in touch with the scene.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that because, of course, I don't know how movies are made. And in my mind, like the director's like, action, cut. Does the director talk to the actors about like, here's the motivation?
I think so.
That's a lot of understanding from the director's role, like that, to know the ins and outs of all these characters and trying to make it all come together.
Yes.
That's a tough job.
I think his scene is strong. Elijah is consistently good in these acting scenes. He doesn't cry, but I think it's solid.
I agreed. I thought it was very well done.
Hayden's up next. Archie's back. And he brings the squeaker from one of Archie's toys in order to bring the emotion of the scene. Look, I know that the Hayden Archie bit might be a bit played out, but it gets me every time.
Oh, me too.
I mean, when he cries about that dog, when they show videos of that dog, when he brings out that dog, I'm like, oh, Archie.
I cry about my dog that died 2 years ago still. So, like, put me in a scene with a squeaker toy from that dog, I would probably lose it.
Yes. Jonathan is crying.
I think it's very smart of Hayden to use this squeaker toy to kind of like evoke these emotions.
Yeah.
He's looking for this connection with Rachel as his scene partner. Like, I thought it was very smart. I wondered, do actors do this?
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure they use tricks like this, or they get into, these actors are like trying to think of these, like, let me bring real emotion from something that I can relate to. Hayden also makes another bold choice.
Oh,
Tell me what you thought about Hayden's choice.
well, Not that I hated it. Hayden chooses to use an American accent, but he does slip in and out of his Aussie accent quite a bit, I thought.
Oh, I did not notice. I actually was kind of impressed with his American accent. He does not cry again until the end of the scene. So Rachel, I've said this before, I love bringing in all these Hallmark actors because they all have these like real sweet, genuine moments. They're just such lovely people, at least on screen. And so she talks to all of them after their scene and debriefs, and she asks them about the squeaker, and that's when he cries.
Yes. After they have cut.
Yes. Jonathan's up next.
Oh, man.
I know. I'm crossing everything going in that he can nail this, but there's two foibles here. He drops his props coming in, which no big deal. Like just pick it up and move on. But it
Improv, baby.
It throws him and he misses his line and he just stands there and you don't know how long. Look, it's edited. We don't know how long it goes on, but we hear Jonathan saying like, say the line, say the line.
It feels like 5 minutes that we're just watching him
It does.
search for his line.
And Rachel saves him a little bit. Which I love. I'm like, oh, she's professional. I think he finished fine, but unfortunately, like when you look at this scene compared with past performances, he doesn't have any wiggle room to have a slip up like that.
Yeah. I thought he wasn't terrible. He's very warm and convincing to me in this scene. And I have to think back to like years and years of watching Top Model. I think he could actually be a very good actor with some practice. He needs some more time.
Yeah, it's like on American Idol, like you're not ready yet.
American Idol too.
Like go take some classes, be more comfortable in this moment. Yes, I do think he could be great. Next, move on to Blake. And Blake is practicing his scene with Elijah. And it's so funny to me because Blake's like, just be a body, right?
He's spinning out a little bit, don't you think so?
Yeah. He needs to like run his lines with somebody. And he's like, just sit there. And they put this like funny music behind it. I don't know if you noticed. It just made me laugh. But Elijah's a real team player in this moment. And he actually gives Blake some nice advice and just says like, be in the moment and look in Rachel's eyes. And I know we keep talking about it, but like, obviously these guys all want to win, but at the end of the day, they're all also still good guys. I think Blake's fine. Having watched 4 of these, it's not blowing me out of the water. Is it because I've now watched this scene 4 times, or is it because Blake's not that dynamic?
Right. So Blake takes a lot of weird kind of pauses. And even Jonathan Bennett, like behind the camera, is like, he's pausing. But he doesn't give any like context to it. Like, obviously, I'm not an actor. I'm not a director. I'm like, what's this mean? And Jonathan Bennett does like explain a little bit later on about the pausing. And I'll just say it now. I guess they said like he was emotionally disconnected from the scene because he kept like,
and he would like turn away when he was pausing.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't engaged with Rachel. He would like look ahead instead of like he was in his own head, which I think might happen in a real life breakup scene like that. But in the moment, you're supposed to be connecting with your partner.
Yeah.
Ezra's last. We learn Ezra lost his older sister, and he's using that loss to take him to an emotional space.
Another like gut wrenching story.
Yes. Ezra, they all, at the end of the scene, Rachel walks away and they all have to give like a sarcastic or a sad Merry Christmas. And Ezra's sad Merry Christmas is my favorite of all of them.
I agree. First of all, I thought Ezra and Rachel together look like a beautiful couple. I know this isn't about like how your partners look in the scene,
Well.
but Ezra, to me, his look is real Hallmark hunk.
Yes. Look, let's recall. First impression, opening scene. I said Ezra's my pick to win it, knowing nothing about these guys. I think he has the look.
He has the look. And I thought he did pretty good in his scene.
You know, I thought he did okay. It's interesting because the judges after this, honestly, in the deliberation, like I don't feel like they're giving away anything. To me, it is not super clear. I don't think there's a huge delineation between the top and the bottom. There's no
writing on the wall.
Huge standout. And so going into the elimination, I wrote, to me, it seems like Jonathan and Ezra are going to be bottom 2. I was wrong. But while they're deliberating, like we see the guys in the house, and this is when Ezra breaks down about his sister.
Yeah.
It's a very emotional moment.
I was like, that's some deep emotional shit happening here.
Yes.
I feel like he needs
Therapy.
somebody to talk to. I feel really, him and Jonathan both, those are devastating losses. And like, I appreciate that the show went there and that they allowed the show to go there as well. That's why I walked away from this episode going like, oh, this was heavy.
It was heavy. We go into the star quality challenge, and the judges kind of repeat a lot of what we heard them saying in their deliberations.
You mean in the elimination cave?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Thank you. We go into the elimination cave, and the judges crown Hayden the winner. Hayden cries here again, too.
Yeah. I mean, I was like, is he giving his Oscar speech here? He was thanking everybody.
Yeah.
Did you think Hayden deserved to win this one? Was he the standout for you?
Honestly, I did not have a winner. I would have been fine with Hayden or Elijah winning. Those were probably the two strongest. But again, I don't think anybody was terrible.
Yeah, I agree.
I think they've all grown in the challenge, and there was nobody where week one's acting challenge where I was like, that's a terrible choice. Like, this is not going well. We didn't have that moment here.
I agree with you.
I think they all could have used some direction. I think with like a second take, Jonathan could have been amazing. Blake and Jonathan are the bottom two.
Are you surprised at this?
I'm not really.
Well, you just said you thought Ezra might be bottom two.
Yeah, I thought Ezra might be bottom two, but I didn't think Blake was going to win. So I'm not really that surprised that Blake's bottom two. And Jonathan is the one who was sent home. Again, all of these losses are kind of like sad and devastating to me, but I also think it's the right one. Like, especially if you compare it to the previous weeks, like Jonathan has struggled. And as much I'm like, I want to see you bring it. I enjoy seeing you on camera. Like your point, he's super warm. He's connects with these guys. But yeah, give him a year of acting classes and then see where he is.
Yeah.
Give him the chance to stretch those muscles. More than just like he's an attractive athlete. Let him get on stage and practice running lines and doing all these things.
I absolutely agree.
So I think they made the right choice.
They did.
There has never been a choice that I'm like, oh no, you sent the wrong person home.
No, there were the one episode when Parker and Hayden were both in the bottom two. That was probably my biggest reaction was like, oh my gosh, these are two fan favorites. One of them's going home. Like,
yes. But even then I was like, I think that's the right choice.
Yeah, agree. Now, of course, this is like, I'm going to preface it again. I don't hate Blake, but the parting shot, he says, like, despite our brotherhood,
yes,
I'm here to win.
Yes.
Like,
well, maybe we need a new villain.
Maybe
we need a new villain at it because villain number one, Gage, went out early.
Yeah. This just, it bothers me because there's so few left and they obviously have a bond. And now, like, it would be like me being like, I don't know what that.
There can be only one podcaster.
Yeah, exactly.
4 years into that, someone has to win.
Right. So anyway.
Yeah. Well, we have 2 episodes to go.
I can't. It's only two left.
7 and 8.
Oh man. What's going to happen?
I assume we'll get to a final 3 after episode 7, and then episode 8 will reveal a winner. That's my guess.
Is it going to be wrapped up before Happy Holidays?
I think it's wrapped up immediately before Happy Holidays. The full week before.
I was kind of thinking.
Yeah, because it'll come out next week. So it'll be wrapped up ahead of Happy Holidays. Hey, thank you for listening to this episode of Girls Gone Hallmark, a Bramble Jam podcast. This is a big week here, so please check in with every episode that's dropping. Put us in your ears as you're wrapping gifts or going for a walk to be alone, away from the holiday.
Away from your family.
Away from the holiday. You know, you might need a post-Thanksgiving break. What do we know? We'll be back. Bye.
Bye.
All right, friends, before we go, just a quick heads up. You're about to hear some ads. These little gems help us keep the show running and the Hallmark love flowing. So do with that info what you will. Grab a snack, hit the skip button, or maybe, just maybe, listen in and discover your new favorite product. Bye.